Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is sponsored by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a business ran by Joe Ross. Joe Ross was a former Army fullback, a former Army assistant coach, and a former Army officer. And we thank Joe Ross for sponsoring this podcast. We'd like to bring in our co-host for tonight, Kel Walker. Kel, this is becoming a regular thing here on Black Knight Nation podcast. So.
Yeah, it is, man. I think we got good energy amongst us too. So, it's something that we had already before when I was playing, when I was a player at West Point, and I think we just transcended it to old grass season. So, I appreciate you for having me on here again.
No problem, no problem. And we're gonna bring in your friend and Army quarterback Kelvin Hopkins. Kelvin, thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely, I'm glad to be here. Always fun to talk to you, Sal, and always fun to see Kel and talk to Kel. So I'm always down to join whenever he's co-hosting, I'll always step in.
There we go. Real quick, you could hit our YouTube channel, Black Knight Nation. Give us a subscribe, like our videos. We just had Ronnie McKay on last night. He's an Army football great. We had Pete Dawkins on recently. Kel, we reviewed the Liberty game recently, right? And we went over the Liberty game. Mike Mayweather, the names go on and on. Jump on that YouTube channel. Go on blackknightnation.com. I really have to write this story tonight or tomorrow. Guys, I want to write a story on the linebackers that are playing in this game, Eric Smith and Diego Fagot, and just how they're kind of the nucleus of each defense, right? But they do it different ways. Like Fagot is a guy who will get in a fight with you if he has to, like pull you off and stuff like that. And Eric Smith is just such a stoic guy, right? Yeah, he's just all business. So I want to I'll write that up hopefully tonight, and I'll be covering the game on Saturday. So check out blackknightnation.com for coverage. Check our Twitter account. Check my personal Twitter account. We got an Instagram too. So get all those plugs out of the way. Black Knight Nation t-shirts somewhere out there. They're out there, guys. If you want to buy them, they're available. Now let's just get down to it. Kel, usually we start the podcast with finding out how our guests got to West Point and their journey and their kind of recruiting story. So maybe, Kelvin, we can hear how you got to West Point. Kel had an interesting story on his journey. What was your journey to West Point, like recruiting-wise?
Recruiting-wise, I was undersized quarterback out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So I didn't really have many offers. Jay Bateman, who recruited me at the time, he was the D coordinator. He called me. I was in study hall, actually, and he offered me. He was like, we were at your school. We talked to your coach. We like what you do. He actually wanted to recruit me when he was at Ball State, but, again, they thought I was too short. So I always appreciated him for that. So when he made the transition to Army and knew that, shorter quarterbacks were kind of what they did, for him to bring my name up and give me that offer, I was very thankful. And then I think maybe 2 days later, I had talked to everybody. I had talked to my mom and everything, and I committed 2 days later because I always felt like I just needed one team to believe in me. And they gave me that offer, and I committed 2 days later. Wow. I think actually I was probably the first one in our class to commit way back when. And, I think it was maybe a week after Coach Monken and them had showed up. And so it was really cool to have seen them grow, I guess, to have that idea, the things that they pitched to me as a recruit, and to be a part of it, and to have known the vision and to be a part of it was real cool for me.
Kelvin, we always talk about how like life works and how our unique stories get us to West Point, how we graduated. Sal probably don't even know this. Like, Kelvin was waiting on an offer from one of the Charlotte schools.
Yeah, I was right before signing day at UNC Charlotte. I was really trying to go there. It was a new program. I had got to know the coaches really well, just being up there. And hey, how you doing? I got to know the coaches at UNC Charlotte really well, and they would tell me that they weren't offering a quarterback for our class. And then they came in pretty late, right before signing day. And I was actually going to make the switch. I wanted to be the hometown kid and at UNC Charlotte and start that program up. But I took my official visit to West Point and fell in love with it and stuck with it. My coach was very big on, once you make a commitment, you should honor it. And I stuck to that, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that happens a lot, I'm guessing, in recruiting, right? Especially now there's 2 different signing days, right? And you see a lot of guys who've committed to West Point that are 2022 recruits, and they're on visits to Michigan, Michigan State, whatever. I mean, they're visiting, they're still being recruited, actively recruited by other schools. So there's nothing legally binds you to a West Point commitment to a point, right, guys? I mean, until you show up there for our day. So I mean,
Right.
and even when you're at Army Prep, you're still recruitable. So I mean, Army has to do a really good job, a strong job recruiting you and getting through their vision, right? And I guess Kelvin, like you said, you were pretty much sold on it. Tell us a little bit what happens early in your career and how you move up the depth chart into a prominent role. I mean, we can all talk about, the tempo game in a little bit, but, I mean, let's talk about like what the adjustment was for you, because in high school, option wasn't really, you didn't really run an option offense, did you, or no?
No, I did not. I mean, we did a little read option. I think everybody does that nowadays. But I came from a team we threw probably 25 to 35 times a game. I had big 6'4" receivers on the outside. So I came from a very wide open passing offense. So it was very different for me once I got up there, especially at prep school. I think that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't really want to go to prep school at first, but I was glad that I did, especially from a football standpoint, because I had a lot to learn. The footwork, doing things different in the option, the pitch, all that. Angel Santiago, former quarterback, he was my coach at the prep school. He was really hard on me about teaching me the fundamentals. At the time I wasn't the most gracious for it, but once I got to campus and started playing for Coach Ware, it got even worse. So, I was very glad that he was that way about the things he was at prep school. But it definitely was a huge adjustment period for me, just from football wise. I was always one of those people, I felt like football just kind of made sense. And that was the first time in my career where it just didn't make sense. I had to work a little harder to get out there and make things happen. But yeah, I mean, I never started a game at prep school. That was always interesting. Threw a couple touchdowns just because I felt like I could throw well, and that's what the coaches thought I was good at. So I'd go in, I guess, fourth quarter situations, obvious passing downs, they would throw me in there. But I definitely was not a good option quarterback at prep school.
Who was the quarterback? Who was the prep school?
Malik Magoo was our starter at prep school. And I mean, Malik picked it up so fast. I was so jealous at how fast he picked up the offense. I got a lot of my work ethic, like mentally, from Malik, just because I was like, how can you help me? How can I get better? And he was always watching football, whatever game was on that night, whatever, he was in his room watching it. We lived right across the hall from each other. So I got to hang out with him and kind of break down the offense a little bit more from his perspective. And he helped me out a lot, but definitely did not get much play time at prep school.
Malik's the guy who people ask, what happened to Malik, after, because I guess he had some moments early in his career, right? And he moved on to another school, but it's good to hear his name. That's certainly a blast from the past. Oh, yeah. So freshman year, what happens freshman year for you? What happens that adjustment and kind of getting more comfortable with the option?
Say a little bit of the same, a lot of growing pains, especially from the academy standpoint, dealing with Coach Ware, and he was a huge stickler for the details of everything. And for me, it was just trying to not to mess up the play. So it definitely was an adjustment period. I spent that whole season on the scout team, threw a lot of balls for Coach Bateman in the defense. But I enjoy scout. I love scout. I think honestly, that was probably the best time of my career, just to go out there and actually feel yourself getting better, but also helping the defense get better. We as a scout team took pride in being the best offense our defense was going to see that week. So, we attacked it. We did 1-minute situations, 2-minute situations, third down situations. I had a lot of fun doing it. I had a great group of guys around me that kept me motivated. AJ Scher, another former quarterback, he was running our scout team, and he kept us invested. He kept us into it. He kept us, it's easy to kind of get into the lull of go to class and then come get beat up on by the starters. but he made it fun for us, and we really enjoyed it. So I spent that time that year down on the scout team, got to travel and dress a few games, especially once they started to realize that I could throw a little bit more. And, they started putting me in on 1 minute situations in practice. So I kind of became that guy for 1 minute situations freshman year towards the back half of that season. And then we never had the situation, but I was always prepared for it, always waiting for it. And then I was scout team player of the year freshman year, which was, again, probably the best honor that I had just because I had so much fun doing scout team.
Kel, when Kelvin's on the scout team and you're kind of with the varsity squad, you guys don't get a chance to work too much together, I guess, right? But you guys were probably building that bond and friendship at the core side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We started to hang out a lot more after prep school. So when we were at the academy, plebe year going into sophomore year, we actually started to hang out a little bit more. We were in the same company. I used to get picked on in my company a lot, and he used to be the saving grace. I don't know why people thought he was the angel of the company, and I was the bad kill, and he was the good kill. I don't know why, but that's the labels they gave us. And every time I get picked on, I always lean on Kelvin to try to help me out, to talk to the upperclassmen, like, bro, just tell them leave me alone, whatever, something like that. But yeah, off field, we were getting close, and that kind of helped us connect later on in our careers. On the field. So after that, we became roommates, and we became best friends after that.
Yeah, I guess Kelvin had the quarterback cred, right, to get you out of maybe some of that stuff.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Nah, I'm gonna be real. It was Kel's. What was it? 96 yards and 12 carries freshman year, Army Navy, that did it. It wasn't me.
Oh man. But now I want to talk about.
Oh, go ahead, Kev.
Kev, I want to talk about. I want to talk about when we were competing for a quarterback position, a number one quarterback position. I thought that was hilarious. But first, I want to talk about when they threw you in the game sophomore year 2017 at Temple. Like, I don't know, in the locker room, I kind of saw you determined. You had your headphones on. You were kind of rocking out to yourself like you usually do. Getting prepared for a game. When we were going into that game, we got ourselves in a 1 minute situation and they called you, what were you thinking in your head? How did you prepare yourself to lead this team to victory, or that team to victory?
I mean, like I said, that was my role. I wasn't the greatest option quarterback, so I just wanted to add value to the team. So I took my role as the 1 minute quarterback pretty serious. Every time every time we did that situation, I was trying to, play it like a game, and Coach Ware was really big on, taking reps and playing game speed and game mental speed. So just kind of that practice that we had for 1 minute situations was huge for me. I was actually kind of mad, and, James Gibson, the week before that game was Eastern Michigan, and Gibby had that big stop at the 1 yard line on the 2-point conversion, I think it was. Or the fourth down stop, whatever it was. And I remember I went up to him. I was like, yo, I'm so mad at you. He said, why? I'm like, I'm glad you won the game, but I was ready. Like, I had locked in. I remember Coach Ware came to me on the sideline and was like, get ready for 1 minute if you got to do it. So I didn't even get to enjoy that last half of that game and see the hit, because I'm like on the bench getting ready. He came over. I remember looking at him in the locker room. I'm like, Gibby, I'm so mad you made that hit, because I was ready to go win this game. And, he brushed it off or whatever. And then next week we come into Temple, and that was kind of when my role started to elevate a little bit more as the passer. I had been in a few times on third down. But I had went in before the half a few times, and Jermaine Adams had a corner route that I overthrew going into the half that could have put us in field goal range. And Coach Monken came up to me in the locker room, and he's drilling me. He's like, that's what we put you in for. Like, you can't miss that, this and that. So I'm mad at myself. I'm like, I spoiled my opportunity. Like, I was so mad. I went to Jermaine. I was like, if I ever get that opportunity, like, I'm not going to miss you anymore. I promise, and we don't throw the ball often, and receivers, they work hard. So for me to have missed that for him, I felt bad. So I knew I was going to give him another chance. But as the game started to go on, and it's pretty close, and they scored, I think, with a minute 38 left, I think it was. Just in my head, it was go time, just to do that, go out there and just try and put us in a position to win. I think the first few completions of any drive like that is the hardest because you're trying to get in a rhythm and trying to feel out the defense. So I think if you can make it through that first set of 3 downs and get in a motion, then you can score. So that was kind of my biggest thing, just get 1 first down and, try and get to the 50 and then give us a chance. Hit one to Kel over the middle. I think that was probably the best ball I've thrown I threw in my college career. Had no business throwing it. It was between like 3 people. But Kel ran a great route. Hit John Trainer on a wheel route before then. O-line was, they were looking at me. I'm the sophomore. They all seniors. They like, just do it. Just make something happen. And then it got down to, I think we were on the 14-yard line or whatever it was. And we had came out in one formation just to see how they were going to line up. And I didn't really like the idea of going from gun to under center. So I was glad they called the timeout because then we backed up and then we lined up in gun. And then we seen the way they were lined up. And I just remember the corner was inside shoulder on the goal line. And they called another timeout. I went to Jermaine and Coach Ware. And I'm like, Coach, like, they are inside shoulder on the goal line. I could throw this at the pylon and he's not going to get to it. And that's exactly why Kel Walker didn't get the look. Kel swears he should have got that touchdown because he was wide open over the middle. But I knew 100% where I was going with it if he walked out there and he lined up like that again. And he did. He came back out inside shoulder on the goal line. I was like, this is going to the pylon. And honestly, it was just, if I miss him, we might still have time for another play. If it goes out of bounds, if he catches it, then it's touchdown. And Jermaine jumped up, made a great play, and sent the game into overtime. Just an exciting, moment just to be able to do that, especially in my first serious minutes as a football player at Army.
That's impressive, bro. Sal, I'm telling you, that's impressive. Like, for a sophomore who hasn't really got, like, varsity touches, game day experience at the collegiate level, to come in there with that football IQ, and actually make game day decisions that control every piece of the board. That's very impressive. I mean, you already had a high football IQ before even coming into that game, and we all saw that early on.
Yeah, I was in the press box, right? I was covering that game, of course, and just to see that happening, seeing it unfold, that's one of the. I've seen a lot of amazing plays at Mikey Stadium, but that pass is one of the tops. I mean, pressure, like you said, the pressure situation. You got 1 shot, maybe 2 shots, right, Kelvin, to make that happen. And if you don't, you're going. If you don't, you're going home, not going home a winner. And I think that you guys were playing pretty solid ball at Mikey too, right? So you wanted to keep that going too, and that was part of just a great run there. I mean, talk about the Eastern Michigan game, and then you knock off Temple, and then the ball starts to get rolling a little bit, right? I mean, and then but Kelvin, you still have to kind of play your role, so to speak, the rest of that season, right? I mean, you're playing behind Ahmad, right? You have to play your role still. So that must have been, hey, you're going into such a high, right, after that game, and then you still have to still find your place in the quarterback depth chart, so to speak, to a point, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, Ahmad was the guy. Like, there was no question about that. And that was just me trying to do my role. I knew I was the passer. That was my job. And to have successfully done it and show them that, if I go out there, I can do what y'all want me to do. It's funny because after that week, there was, I guess, a QB controversy, like, this and that, like, could Kelvin play? Then Ahmad came back with 265 against Air Force and shut all that up. So, it was cool to be in that room, just because, like, it didn't matter where the success came from. Just like, and that was the culture of the quarterback room. I think it still is, just kind of the way I see those guys interact now in the conversations I've had with them this season. It's the coach's decision to decide who's going to be out there. That's not up to us. The only thing we can do is really support each other and, go make plays when it's our time. So that's kind of how I felt. I went out there and made plays, but, I mean, right after the touchdown, Ahmad went right back out there for OT and led the drive, So it wasn't me just trying to, go out there and, say it's my time or anything like that. It was just my time at the moment. And then Ahmad went back out there and handled business as usual. So
it's kind of amazing how they're doing it right now, right? With just multiple quarterbacks going in and out. You just never know. In the same drive, you might have two quarterbacks play. You might have Tyre or Christian. And they're making it work. Like you said, it's got to be the culture. They're making that work. And when Jabari Laws got his name called earlier this season, he responded, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, it's. I think maybe you started something there, Kelvin. I don't know.
Hey, I mean, even when I look back before I got there, it was the same thing with, Chris Carter and AJ and Ahmad, whoever was out there, we're all going to support each other. We're all going to hope that we do good and win the game. I always felt that way. Those are conversations I had with, the quarterbacks, I guess, when I was the older guy in the room was, practice. We're not going to prey on each other's downfall. We're going to support each other because that decision has nothing to do with us. As far as who goes out there on Saturdays, who goes out there and make plays, that's a coach's decision. But how we go out here and practice and how we go make plays, that's up to us, and that's what we got to do.
And I know it's true because going into our junior season, Coach Munkin and Coach Ware came to me and said, you're going to be in the quarterback room from now on. Temporarily, but we're going to try you there for right now. And they still supported me. Those guys still supported me. They knew I couldn't throw the ball. I mean, in practice, I had like 5 or 8 interceptions. I was getting embarrassed out there. A day.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I'm a runner. I was telling them I'm a runner. Let Kelvin throw the ball. But those guys still picked me up. They lift me up, Kelvin especially. We all knew that he was going to be the number one guy in that meeting room. But he still lifted me up, trying to teach me the plays from the quarterback position. And that was important for me because as a slot and as a leader in the slot room, I needed to learn what those guys were thinking at the same time because that helps me do my job. So, those guys built an amazing culture, and that kind of transcended down to the slot back room too and allowed us to have that same type of culture. Kelvin, I promise you, if I could throw better, I would have started. Not just play. I'll just play.
Hey, they ran a couple. You ran a couple like halfback passes or whatever, right? Or no? You threw the ball, right?
And they didn't really work out too well. They did not really work out. We tried to do one against, I think it was my freshman year. We tried to do one against Air Force. And then my senior year at Hawaii, we tried to do one. Kelvin was wide open, but I didn't see him. That's because Kelvin always tells me, bro, you try to look over the defense, look through the defense. And I always look over the defense. I'm short. So I'm 5'10". I'm 5'9".
Dude, I remember you guys would practice those plays too, right? Even the wide receivers would try to throw the ball every once in a while, and I'm like, wait a second. I mean, and some of them, man, maybe one or maybe a couple worked. I don't know. I don't remember many working, but that's you don't think we're going to be seeing any of that on Saturday, do you?
Nah.
It's Army Navy. You could see anything. I'm gonna be honest. From either side, you might see anything because, I think this game comes down to big plays. It always has. And if you could sneak off a trick play in there, a reverse, a double pass, or something like that, that's just a big play. Because I mean, we both know each other's offenses and defenses so well that if you can squeeze off a double pass, you definitely might see one.
Personally.
Go ahead, Sal. I was going to say I was just going to be the dark cloud because I look at the Wake Forest game, and when they try to throw the trick play on the punt, that kind of put them back 2 scores, and it just was, they couldn't catch up after there. That's just me being, the opposite of the dark cloud a little bit. Like, why? I guess.
Hey, I mean, everybody loves Coach Munkin for him taking risks. That's just part of it. Sometimes it pays off. Sometimes it doesn't.
That's a good point. I mean, that is. And he said, well, we weren't going to stop him, so we had to do something here. And, I mean, it was just like that half second, right? If it was just executed a little bit faster, Chris Cameron probably would have walked into the end zone. All right, I'm done. Kel, the floor is yours, Kel.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't feel like we should use trick plays because we got a better athletes. We got a better playbook. Honestly, we run the same type of offense, but I feel like our guys executed way better than Navy guys do. So, I mean, it's not 2015 Army Navy. We were prepsters, and we saw a lot of trick plays because of that team. Where they had good players, but they had Keenan Reynolds, and they had, an amazing team. Navy just out executed them. But this year and every year after that, our guys out execute Navy every single year besides 2019. I'm not going to talk about it. But we just out execute them in every aspect of the game. So I feel like we shouldn't even use trick plays. But if Coach Munkin wants to do it, then, like Kelvin said, we love him for his audacity. The guy, he's brave. He goes for it. He'd go for it on 4th and 3 if he had to, or 4th and 5 if he had to. So we definitely appreciate a great trick play, but our guys gonna run through him. So I'm not worried about it.
We can break down the Army Navy game in a little bit, but let's get to that 2018 season, right? Because that's pretty much that's a magical season, Army football, the most wins ever in Academy history. It seems like from the start, Cal, you guys were able to, you had a good team coming back, right? You knew what you guys had coming back. You had the offense coming back. It seemed like everything kind of fell in place that year, no doubt.
Yeah, it did. It started. Go ahead, Kevin.
No, just for me personally, just before we even go into the season, we had a lot of guys coming back, especially on defense. A lot of guys that played a lot of snaps. On offense, we had a lot of guys that played a lot of snaps. We had Bryce Holland coming back. We had a couple new guys on the O-line, but they had all seen, play time before and had been out there. So I really felt like going into the season, personally, the only question mark was myself. And if I could go out there and plug in and just do my job, I thought it could be special. And, it turned out to be a very good season for us.
I was going to say, exactly what Kelvin said. We had a lot of guys coming back, but the only thing that was different for our offense pretty much was the quarterback position, like our leader on offense, the captain of our offense. And I feel like, once Kelvin came in there during practice and commanded our O-line and commanded our huddle, we felt confident enough that he could lead the whole team or lead our offense to victory. And he could also influence the defense when we're doing Skelly or we're doing these one-on-one situations. So, it starts with the leaders up front, and those guys did a tremendous job. And then our offense made our defense better. Our defense made our offense better. And also our coaches they believed in us tremendously. You play to the level of your coaches belief in you, and they believed in us tremendously that year, and we just executed.
Kelvin, when did you feel like it was kind of your team and you were comfortable? Was it in the preseason, or did you have to take a snap and be the quote starter to feel that?
I wouldn't say definitely didn't happen preseason. For me, I'd say probably around the Hawaii game junior year, I think it was the 3rd game of the season, was when I got comfortable. I knew the guys had a confidence in me. I could tell that they were all super supportive. There was no hey, get it together, this or that, even when, I was making new starter mistakes. But for me, it took till probably about the Hawaii game when I got comfortable and felt like, I could add my own spin into this and actually contribute to what's going on. But I definitely think the guys I had around me helped me get better, just having, especially the B-backs. When I think back to that season, that B-back room we had between Darnell, Andy, Kalen, Connor, Sandin, we were 5 deep at B-back, and they were all very good at what they did. And I knew that's what I had behind me. We can get a guaranteed 3 yards if I hand the ball off. So for me, just having those guys around me kind of helped me get my confidence. And once I got comfortable, I felt like we kind of hit stride.
Man, you remind me of the names on that team. Is not too far removed, right? And you look at that team. You can match that team up against any team in the service academy teams. You throw Navy's best team in recent history. You throw Air Force's best team in recent history. I don't know if anybody's beating that 2018 team, man. That team, holy God, you guys were stacked. And that Hawaii game, Kelvin, I remember. Cole McDonald was coming in from Hawaii. I mean, he had a couple good games and jokingly might have been in the Heisman talk, so to speak. And you guys were able to win that game. Cole Christensen knocked that down a pass in the end zone to win that game, and that was probably a good. That was probably like a not a start, but a sign that hey, okay, that was a test, and you guys passed that test, and good things were about to come in that season, no doubt. I would think, right?
Yeah, no, most definitely. They were a really good team. Their defense was probably one of the more athletic defenses we had played that year. They were very fast, not the biggest guys, but they could all move. And like you said, Cole McDonald I think he was leading the country in passing at that point. Like he had a ridiculous amount of touchdowns through the first 3 weeks of the season. And I mean, he came in and slung it, but our defense had a great plan for him. So we were able to weather that. And I think that was kind of the first game where we all put it together at the same time. I think we had all played on both sides of the ball. We had played well at different times those first 2 games. And then I think that Hawaii game was the first game that we had put it together where offense and defense was playing well at the same time.
Yeah. And then so the following game, right, is the Oklahoma game. And that's a game, even though it may have not gotten the Black Knights' way, that was a statement game for you guys too, right? That you were going to play on the big stage. You guys weren't going to flinch, and you're going to take a really good Oklahoma team to the brink there. And I mean, to think about what Oklahoma had on that side, right, with the talent that they had on that side, you guys did not back down. And that was something that even though you may not have pushed through in that game, you guys didn't lose. You guys went on a streak after that game. So that must have, I don't know if you could, Kelvin, if you could talk us through that game a little bit. And then after that game, kind of just getting it back together. Cause that's the game after a tough loss like that, right? You got to regroup a little bit, and there's not a lot of time to regroup most of the time. So walk us through that game and then what happened after.
I say the Oklahoma game, and I've talked about this with, other guys that were there. When I think back to it, I just feel like that was one game that was just like a fever dream. And I think those are the best games, where you're just going out there, just letting it hang. And, I don't really remember much. I don't remember my thought process. I can tell you, I can talk to you about the Temple game and just kind of remember my thought process. But the Oklahoma game, I just remember being like, nobody expects us to even be able to play well in this game. So for us to go out here and just do whatever, we have the ability to do whatever. And they scored pretty fast, which we knew was going to happen. Like it was Kyler Murray who won the Heisman that year, and CeeDee Lamb and Hollywood. Like we knew they were going to score. But if we could go out there and do our job on offense and help defense out as much as we could, we knew a stop, interception, a turnover was going to come at some point. So after that first drive, we went on, took maybe 8 minutes off the clock. And I just remember looking at their defense and just being like, oh, these guys are not built to really be out here long. They play in the Big 12, they are 3 and outs are what they want because they throw the ball around. It's like if we can keep them on the field and gas them out a little bit and keep that offense on the sideline, we can actually have a chance. And as the game started to go along and the crowd got more quiet and our confidence started to go, I was like, we might actually win this game. I remember I was sitting on the sideline with Luke Langdon, and we're just sitting talking. And he looks at me, he's just like, yo, it's really quiet. We were talking just like this. It's really quiet in here.
Yeah.
We had stunned everybody. And I wish we could have pulled it off. Definitely wish we could have won. We definitely had some chances to do it. And, just being upset that we couldn't do it. But I think that was when you talk about going into the next week, I think that was the biggest difference. When you talk about the hangover of losing a game like that, it wasn't like, oh, we almost took Oklahoma to, we almost beat Oklahoma. It was, we should have beat Oklahoma. We had all these opportunities to win this game and we didn't take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of ready to come back and get back at it and win. And that's what took us into Buffalo that next week to where we weren't hungover from, almost beating the number 5 team in the country or whatever they were at that time. But just that we should have won that game, and now we're going to go out here and prove why we should have won that game because we're a good team.
I should have highlighted this more when I was on the beat, but that Buffalo team, you spanked them up there 42-13, right? That team won 10 games that year for Buffalo. They were a good team. They were a good MAC team. And you went up there and just I get there was a special teams player, maybe a big play involved there early in that game, right? To turn the tide a little bit, I think, or something. But you guys
we had a blocked field goal that Eli took back to the crib, I think.
Yeah.
That it was close. I mean, they had took the first one of the first possessions to the for a touchdown, for a long touchdown, and then I think maybe 2 drives later I threw an interception. So it was looking pretty shaky at the beginning. You know, it was like, oh, here we go. But then like we snapped into it and things started to get going, and it was like, well, you know, this is what we came to do. But yeah, Eli had that block, or Tuga had that block punt kick, and Eli took it back to the house. And I think that was really the momentum shift that just we kind of rode for the rest of the game.
Man, when you look at that game, right? Oh, go ahead, Cal.
You had a TD pass to Glenn that game too, yeah.
Nah, Jordan
Asbury. But it was Jordan Asbury. I think that was the start of his like catching era as well, and y'all two connecting in the air a lot that season.
Yeah,
because that carried us forward. A lot of those passes carried us forward after the Oklahoma game as well. That connection between you and Jordan Asbury.
Yeah,
we have a comment here, so here we go. Brian Keogh says 2 major names in Army football history book right here. Both of you gave us great memories on many Saturdays. Thank you to both.
Absolutely,
thank you,
appreciate it.
It's great to hear from Army fans, right? When you certainly appreciate it. What I was going to say is that 42-13, right? When this offense gets rolling, guys, right? I mean, you look at that game, you look at the bowl game later in the season. My goodness, I mean, when it's hot and rolling, it is very difficult to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's Kelvin, I want to talk about that bowl game in a little bit. First, maybe we want to get to some games later in the season, the 2018 season. You know, the Air Force game was a big win, no doubt. And the service academy games, maybe you guys can walk us through that. It was 17-14 over Air Force, and same with Navy. 17-10 game. There's both close games going down to the wire, but this team, was tested. And like I said, maybe it goes back to that Oklahoma game. Who knows? But you guys were definitely primed to win those games. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, those service academy games, and y'all gonna see it tomorrow. It's always chippy. It's always tough, no matter what what the record looks like, no matter kind of what the team makeup is. That's your sister academy. You're gonna want to play that game for bragging rights. And I think that was the same thing with Air Force. It was a close game. We kind of took off for a little bit. I think it was 14-3, and then they fought their way back. They always have something for us, Air Force. They always play us tough, no matter what's going on over there, no matter who's at quarterback or who they got hurt or this or that. They're going to come with it. And, you always have to be prepared for that one. And, again, I think that's a game where you got to have something special. I think the Navy game always comes down to big plays, and I think the Air Force game always comes down to just like 1 inch, just a little difference. I mean, if you look at the games we played, and then you watch any Air Force game, it's probably a yard difference worth a game. Jabari Moore had a big play 2 years in a row against Air Force.
Yeah.
That, just that little bit difference. Our 4th down conversion that year was huge to win the game. That one was super exciting. That stadium is always rocking when Air Force is in town. So that was super fun.
Yeah, packed house. That's playing that's about as good as it gets at Mikey Stadium, right? Where you could play a service academy game and pull out a win like that. Last year, kind of wish that crowds were in for those Navy and Air Force games back to back for something like that, right? Man. So then you go to Navy, right? And that's another. I was looking up the stats real quick on this Kelvin. So there were 4 touchdowns scored combined in the Air Force and Navy games that year, and you scored 3 of them on the ground. 3 of the 4 touchdowns on the ground you had in those games. What do you remember about the Navy game that really what you remember from that?
I just remember we were on a win streak. Navy, we knew that they had guys Malcolm Perry, obviously. Their defense, they had a D lineman that was really good. We knew he was going to be a problem. So really just kind of going out there and executing. I think anybody you ask that's ever played in a Navy game knows that they understand what you're going to do. Like they know this offense, they run it, they see it all the time. So for you to go out there and handle things and manage the game is the most important part of the game. And big plays, I think, was the biggest difference in that game. Kel had a 55-yarder on the first drive, and that led to the touchdown afterwards. But like that put us in a position where we weren't trailing for most of the game. I mean, I don't think we trailed at all, but that big play right there could easily be said as the difference. Had a lot of turnovers on defense that game. Our defense played lights out that game. You know, we put them in a couple bad situations, but again, that's just how that game goes when a defense understands what you're doing. But our defense handled it. I think Jalen had a forced fumble. Jalen McClinton had a forced fumble and an interception. Mike Reynolds had an interception. Kenny Brenton had a forced fumble. You know, just big plays on defense. I'm telling you, that game comes down to big plays every time. And just for us to have that on the defensive side and give us opportunities to keep their offense on and even score when we did was the difference in that game.
Kelvin, like Army Navy games is always in the trenches, right? What were the conversations that you had with like Bryce Holland and the rest of our O-line in the 2018 season? Because a lot of people don't know Bryce Holland was cutting weight. He was about to graduate.
Yeah.
What were the conversations you were having with him and the rest of that O-line as we were trying to drive down the field?
Man, just, you know, make something happen for us. You know, that when you run the triple, I think your best players on the field got to be the O-line. And a lot of people don't understand that. When you run the triple, like everything starts with those guys. And that year, that O-line, they were hard workers. Bryce was probably one of the best leaders I've been around. And like you said, he was cutting weight, but he made no excuses about it, you know. And that was kind of his mindset. He had, I think, probably the hardest task that game with their nose tackle. And I think he probably had 90 pounds on him at that point. And Bryce was like, I got him. You know, he was like, don't worry about it. I got him. Like, I'll do what I got to do. I don't care if I got to cut him. If I don't got to drag him down, I may get a few holding penalties, but I'm going to do what I got to do so that y'all can run the offense. And, you know, at me as a quarterback, I never felt I learned early on, you never get too high or low with your O-line. You know, you always kind of reward them and you get on them when they do bad. But that was a group, like I never felt the need to do that because Bryce was going to handle it. And that was, you know, that was the mood for that game. He was like, I'm not making excuses so nobody else gets to. So, you know, that was kind of what happened. And those guys played a great game.
Man, he was you know, I know Brett Toth is playing in the NFL right now, right? But I mean, Bryce Holland will go down as one of the better offensive linemen in this maybe this decade, certainly in the last 10 years, no doubt. I mean, that guy was just his football player in the sense of the word, right, guys? I mean, and he's a guy who didn't want, like, he probably, if he wanted to, might have got a shot at the NFL. But he was committed to the military. You know, he's serving. He's out there. You know, he's out there right now. So I mean, wow. Kelvin, I didn't know. I should know this. Were you named the MVP of the game for 2018?
I was.
Yeah. Do you get anything for that? What do you get for that?
Yeah, I got a nice plaque for it. I got to go down to Philly later that year and be a part of their press banquet for the year. Met some really cool people. What's the mascot for the Flyers? He was there. It was a good time, you know, just to go down there. And one of the biggest things that was cool for me was, you know, seeing Ahmad. Ahmad had won it 2 years in a row and his name was on the plaque. So that was cool. You know, that was somebody that I had looked up to and somebody that had taught me a lot as a quarterback. So to kind of be there a year after him and be sitting in his spot, you know, somewhere that he had been was really dope for me.
No doubt. If you guys are watching right now and you have any comments or questions for myself, Kelvin or Kel, fire them away. I guess we could talk about the bowl game now, right? The Armed Forces Bowl. I mean, that was something else. That's something I didn't attend that game. I wish I did because I would have been like almost like the Wake Forest game against Army earlier this year, right? I mean, it's just
No, you weren't the only one that didn't attend that game, bro.
Yeah. I was an exciting one for sure.
Sure.
I mean, unbelievable. I mean, I still say that 77-yard touchdown run by you is one of the most amazing plays. I wish I would have saw it live and in person, because watching it on TV was just an unbelievable play. That Kelvin, to me, was everybody involved in that play, right? I mean, it wasn't. I mean, yeah, you made some shifty moves and you were able to break it off, but I mean, everybody was involved. All 11 were involved in that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just remember, again, when I talk about the Oklahoma game, I don't remember much. Like, I can distinctly just remember that play. Again, Coach Ware was a master preparator. You know, he made sure we were prepared. And they had a blitz called that we had worked on so many times. And I just remember recognizing it, knowing he's probably going to get through untouched because we just don't have enough guys. And it was just, I'm probably going to have to go backside, just try and get to the line, don't lose any yards. And then made that cut, and there was a hole, and just kind of broke loose a little bit. I made a move, and before I knew it, I was in the open, and I just seen guys running up on me. I'm not the fastest person in the world. We all know that. I'm not the quickest guy ever. But I just seen people coming up, and I'm like, is this them? Like, I don't know who it is. And it's just, I think Artis tapped me on my back, was like, we got you. And then Christian Hayes is yelling at me, like, come on, slow. You moving too slow. Like, everybody's just catching up. I'm like, this is the entire team. Like, I was like, there's not a single Houston player around. And that's just like, I mean, when people talk about culture, when people talk about, you know, whatever, I think that's just a care for each other. You know, I think we all played really hard for each other. And when I think back on my career, I think that's the number one play where it's just like there's one guy with the ball, but we all finishing in the end zone.
Right. You see guys from Houston still on their knees, guys getting slow to get up, people having their heads down, quitting at halftime. Like, it's definitely a tale of two cultures. And you guys showed that day, especially that game. And that was like the cap of the season, because the whole season, like, it was like our culture versus yours, right? We gonna win regardless. And then that game, it just heightened, took it to new heights.
Now, James Nautical had the sickest game I've ever seen anybody.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Like, they gave me the MVP, but I went up to James after the game. I was like, I don't know why they did this, probably because I was a quarterback. But, like, James, this was the sickest game I've ever seen anybody have. Like,
he was playing with, like,
on Houston.
Loose screws.
Loose screws on Houston. And it was just impressive to watch. Everything was, I'm going to get the ball out. And, you know, anybody can make a tackle. Anybody can go out there. But just to have the presence of mind every time he went out there, I think he forced 4 fumbles. Something ridiculous like that. And a bunch of tackle for losses, probably a sack or 2. Probably, you know, I feel like I'm talking about Boobie Miles. Like, he filled up the Gatorade cooler, painted defense. He did everything that day. And it was great to watch. So, I mean, that's the one thing I really remember from that game. That was probably the most dominant I've ever watched our defense play, and it was at the hands of James Nautical.
You ever seen, like, 2 people fighting, but you know one person may be a skilled boxer and the other one's an amateur boxer? Yeah. He beat him up, everything funny, and then at the end, you just like, all right, that ain't funny no more. That's how it was. Like, that's not funny no more. That's how it was. Like, James was going crazy the whole game, and at the end, you should see the faces of Houston, like, players. I was like, dang, he just beat them boys into submission. Like, they want to quit. They want to go home. They looking at the coaches like, what did you get us into? Like, he went crazy that game.
That was, I think that was Clayton Tune was their quarterback, maybe.
Yeah, he's having a great season this year too.
It's crazy, right? How you get a game like that under your belt, right? It was, you might want to quit, like you say, Kel. You might want to quit after that game, you know, after the game, And he stuck it out, and now he has a good season. That's we'll give him some credit, I guess, right?
Oh, absolutely.
In 2021, we'll give him some credit. I mean, that game was 70 points. I mean, that's one of the most points ever scored in a bowl game. And like we said, guys, it wasn't just the offense. That was the defense setting you guys up a lot for success too, like with James. So that was wow. When you look at that, we were like, that was, whew. I mean, that's good. That goes down. Go ahead,
We
Phil.
even had some young guys on offense, like we say the whole team. It was like the total package. We had some young guys, young slots get in there and make some plays. Like Artis, he mentioned Artis earlier. Like it was completely the whole team. And I feel like the leaders on that team empowered them to do that. You know what I mean? So guys was just giving it all they can for the next person, for
Yeah.
the person next to him. You know what I mean?
Incredible. That was a cap to an incredible season, and that's a season that Army fans now are definitely remember 100%. And when we get comments from an Army fan saying great memories on many Saturdays, I don't think that game was played on a Saturday, but that game was a great memory, no doubt. I guess real quick, if you guys want, I mean, we talk about your senior season a little bit. I know it was probably a little bit disappointing after the 11-win season, right? I guess Kelvin, it was a little bit disappointing for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, every season you set out to win, as many games as possible. And I will first start off to say this. I think the way in which we came out every week and the way we came to practice is probably the most impressive part. It's easy to come to practice and work hard for each other when you're winning. But, that attitude never changed really with that team. Everybody came to work every day, every Saturday. Everybody came out to play hard. And, a lot of things just didn't roll our way that year. We had a lot of injuries, just a lot of things. There was a few games in there, like, you look back at it, we're one possession away, we're one missed tackle, one drop ball, one fumble, one mistake, and football is a game of inches. And I think that season, when I think back to it, that's really the definition of what happened, and you can look at it from a number of ways, but, we just didn't make the plays and make the right decisions at the right time. And, we ended up, I want to say 3-9, but it could have easily been 7-5, but that's just the margin of error in football. And, again, I'm just glad the way we all handled it. We're all still boys. Like, there was no pointing fingers. There was no issues. There was just like, here's what we can. This is what we go out with. But, y'all still my brothers. And, it was definitely disappointing, but definitely glad I learned a lot from it personally.
Right.
Yeah, I remember the core of you guys on the field after the Navy game that year, and you guys didn't really. It seemed like you didn't want to leave the field. It seemed like you were together with Elijah, right, Jalen McClinton, and both of you guys, and it was just like, I guess reality was hitting in a little bit, but there were so many good times that you guys had. I guess that, in that game against Navy, I don't know if that changes a lot of things, but it's certainly something to reflect on when you had some time after that last game that you guys played together, right?
Yeah,
I
no.
mean,
Go ahead, Kel.
I mean, that last game, I feel like I can speak for me, but I feel like all of us felt this way. We're gonna win some, we're gonna lose some. Some seasons we're gonna win more than we lose, and that was one of the seasons that things just didn't go our way. So for that Navy game that year, it was just like, all right, we lost, but at least we can say, like, our class and for our brotherhood, that we went out fighting to the last whistle. We went out like throwing our bodies in there to the last whistle, blood, sweat, and tears. So we were all just standing there, just soaking it in, like we really just did this. What a great career we had with each other, and we loved on each other, and we just kind of walked off the field with each other because that's what we started with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of one of the biggest unsaid things about Army Navy, especially in a season where you're not going to a bowl game, that's probably, the last time a lot of us will ever, put on football pads and play, a real moment of football. So, to have that moment with guys that you have been through so much with, the pageantry of it matters. And, I think that's why it's the biggest rivalry ever. I think that's why it's important to me, is because a lot of us on both sides of the ball will probably never play football again and will never, really attempt to. We have Army careers that we're committed to. This idea of academy players going to the league is new. And, I hope a lot of guys get to do it. But for us in our generation, that wasn't really a thought. So that Army Navy came, that was probably, the last time in which, a helmet was going to be put on in a serious situation. So to have that moment with the guys you came in with and, and say, hey guys, like I enjoyed, doing this with y'all, and this is the last moment. So to have that moment on that field afterwards, I think that's where a lot of that emotion comes from.
Yeah, no doubt. And well, one of the you guys boys are playing in the NFL right now, Elijah Riley, and he's he's representing Army, no doubt, right? I mean, he's getting in there starting for the Jets. I mean, I can't remember I can remember the last time an Army defensive player started in the NFL. Josh McNary back like 7-8 years ago for the Colts. It's been a while. So Elijah, got a chance with the Jets, and he's going with it, so to speak. How proud are you of him, guys, just to see what he's doing out there right now?
Very proud. I mean, Eli is one of our best friends. I love Eli to death, and to see him, whether he played a snap or not, I was happy for him to even get the chance to continue to play. But Eli made that decision back when we were sophomores and said he's like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm gonna chase. And to see it come into fruition now and seeing him live out his dream. Like I texted him, he texted me after they played the Texans and was like, yo, I just played against Tyrod Taylor. And I'm like, bro, like you playing against our childhood, like heroes and people we looked up to, like you're living the dream, bro. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so happy for him. I hope, I don't even hope, I know he's gonna ride it out and he's going to play well, because that's the type of person Eli is. Once he gets his chance, he's going to ride with it. Now, I'm glad the Jets finally gave him a shot, and I don't think there's any looking back for Elijah.
Right. And Eli, piggyback off that, bro, like Eli, anything he did it 100%. Like Kelvin said, sophomore year, he made up his mind already he was going to the league. Everybody else was like, yeah, we need to focus on next season. Eli, like, yeah, I'm going to the league. Let's get this. Let's ball. You know what I mean? So and he did that with everything he could do. So he do that with friendships. He do that with, his relationship, anything. So just to see him, we're not surprised that he made it to the league at all, because we knew that's what something he wanted to do. And knowing that he give 100% anything he does, we knew it was going to happen for him. But like Kelvin said, we're proud of him. He's doing his thing. Like you said, we know he's going to have longevity in the game because he's agile, he's smart, and he takes the time to actually work on his craft to get better at the game. He wants to learn. He's hungry. And I think having a player like that in the league, any team would be happy to have him on his team for a long time.
When I saw him play, right, when he stepped in his freshman year, I was like, okay, this is something different about Elijah, right? And then you see his sophomore year, how maybe he's a little bit more – he's always a physical player, but just seems like he's getting better and better. I'm like, in my head, and I probably said that out loud to people in the press box, I'm like, he's going to play in the NFL. He's going to because being around college football as long as I have, you just know, right? Like on the team this year, right, on their defense. I mean, do they have they at least have a couple guys that are going to get a look, I think,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, 100%. I think Andre Carter is going to get drafted. I'm calling it now. You heard it here first. Like, he might be our first draft pick for a while. I mean, we knew that back when he was a freshman. He wrecked our offense, our scout team every week. And he's just one of those athletic, long guys. He's exactly what football is changing at the outside linebacker position. He can cover. He can make tackles. He can rush the passer. I think he's going to get a chance. I think Marquell Broughton's probably going to get a chance. Another one that when he was younger, he just wanted to make a play. And I think that's the biggest attribute I could say about Marquell, and you see it now. Jabari Moore, I think, is another great player that's probably going to get a chance. And there's a number of guys. I hope they all get a chance.
Yeah.
But,
I was thinking Cockrell, maybe,
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. Nolan.
I mean,
most definitely.
He's yeah. And even Eric Smith, Eric Smith. Yeah. I mean, there could be like 5 or 6 guys from this defense that get a shot.
100%. I hope they do. And
every year.
I think it's great for the academy. I think it's great for the team. I think it's great personally. I know there's bigger mission set, and you talk to whoever, but like at the end of the day, like those guys know where they came from. They know how they got there, and they'll never forget that. So I think it's always going to be a big deal, and I think it will help the academy in all facets, not even just football, to have a guy out there on Sundays running out a tunnel. I mean, you see it now. Everybody talks about Eli, and he's got his sweater on, and he's repping the school and everything. And John Radigan's out there in Seattle, and Coles and in LA. Like all those guys know where they came from. And, at the end of the day, the academy is, I guess that's our home, but
Yeah.
those guys rep it very well. And I don't think it'll change much if you let a few more guys go.
You're talking about some pretty humble guys too, right? I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
Radican, I mean Eli and Cole. We got one more, we got another comment here, guys. Here, you two are awesome Army football players and won't be forgotten.
I appreciate it.
Amazing air show videos checking it.
Yeah, that's Kel Walker right there.
Relax.
Kel, did you put in that comment or no?
Man, I did not know. I did not.
That's Kel Walker. You ain't see the planes on there. That's his emoji. That's his emoji.
Chill out, bro.
Kel, that means you were all over our Ronnie Makeda podcast last night because we got a lot of comments from the same person. So I mean, you've been busy, man.
I was trolling the whole time.
Hey, you guys want to break down the Navy game real quick coming up here? Just kind of your thoughts. I went on a radio show in New Orleans last night, and it was mostly we were talking about Army. And I look at this year, right? Army's the better offense. Army's the better defense. And I know it's a rivalry game. I know you can't take Navy for granted. But I suggested maybe this is the year where Army has a little bit of a runaway victory. Now, that's my opinion. I just maybe get what you guys are seeing. We talked about all the talent on defense for Army, right? I think that this is one of the most explosive offenses that Army's had, with all due respect, right? With Tyrell Robinson and Isaiah Alston. Those guys are big play guys. And whether it's Christian Anderson or Tyler running the offense. What's your guys' take on Saturday?
Like you said, I think this is the most explosive I've seen our offense. They have athletes everywhere, and they're not afraid to use them. I think that's the biggest thing. Not even that we didn't have athletes or anything. We were very system heavy, but at any point now, it doesn't matter what's going. It doesn't matter if it's the fullback. It doesn't matter if it's the pitch. If it's passing, they have the athletes everywhere to do that. And I think this game, like you said, it could be a runaway. I would not discredit Navy. I understand how these games normally go. It's hard to get a runaway game in this one. So I expect the show. Definitely going to be an Army win. But I'm excited to see what the offense does. I think Navy has an idea of what we do. But I don't think that they're ready for the speed and the athleticism in which they're doing it right now. I think Christian Anderson is playing some of the best football. And, I love Christian. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad to see him making plays. He's playing confident. He doesn't care. He's letting it hang out, pulling the trigger, as, some coaches would say. And he's doing it. Tyre is going out there. He's toting the rock. You can get a heavy dose of TT. You can get a heavy dose of Christian. Don't really matter. Even Bari goes out there. Any of them goes out there. I think they're all going to make plays. And the defense is going to do what they do. Our defense is rock solid, and that's how they play ball. And I don't think Navy's offense is ready to run against the wall and break it down like they need to. So it might be a runaway game. It just might.
I think it can be. I think I agree with everything you said, Kelvin. I think we have phenomenal athletes across the board, offense and defense, special teams. We got Zach Harden, who's kicking in. He should be kicking in the NFL right now.
Another guy.
He's going to be in the NFL right now. You know what I mean? But it's going to be a runaway game if we reduce penalties, if we reduce foolish penalties, jumping off sides, holding these. If you can in Army Navy, you can't stop or you can't blame one of these players to have in tackle penalties. That's gonna happen because it's the nature of the game. It's rough. It's a rough game. Everything happened between the trenches, like we said before. But these just foolish penalties, like we saw before in previous games that we lost this season. Like if we reduce those, Navy can't touch us. Absolutely, they probably won't even score. To be honest, and that's not a bold prediction in my opinion. You know what I mean? If we reduce everything across the board, it's a blowout game.
Yeah, they didn't score last year, right? 15-0. That was the first time I think it shut out. You know what, too, guys? Army's on a 4-game winning streak, right? And the offense, I don't believe the offense has turned over the ball once during that streak. So you got to keep, if you play sound and you protect the football. And Jacoby Buchanan's on a roll here the last couple of games, man. Here we go. I want to see Jacoby Buchanan and Diego Fago meet head to head at right after the line of scrimmage and see what happens. I mean, because that's a good matchup in this game. Like we talked about the defense, and guys like maybe Anthony Atkins can get back. He's been banged up. Maybe you get Anthony Atkins back. Brandon Walters has had some big plays this year, right? Like you said, Kelvin. I mean, if they want to, they can call a play action pass and run the tight end down the seam. Probably a good portion of the game if they want, right? Yeah. And if Christian can hit like a Chris Cameron or a Josh Lingenfelter, who knows? I mean, man, I'm gonna say, I don't like to make predictions like as far as who's going to score the first touchdown, but on Army's offense, most likely you're going to pick the quarterback or the fullback. But this season, you really never know. So
yeah, you have no idea. I'm gonna say be back though. I'm gonna definitely go be back. It's gonna score first.
Okay, you're gonna go Biscuit. Biscuit gonna score first.
I'm gonna go Biscuit, man.
Pillsbury.
Kel, at the beginning of this season, the slots were scoring. They were scoring touchdowns. I mean, Walters, Tyrell Robinson, Brahim Murphy had a couple touchdown catches, right? Yeah. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Brahim Murphy, and man, I don't know. I think that more than 10 different guys have scored for them, probably more than that this year. And man, so you guys are gonna be in separate. You're gonna be in separate cities, right? Watching Army Navy on Saturday. Where are you guys gonna be? And how you gonna root on the Black Knights?
I'm gonna be down in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, nice.
I'm currently PCSing down there right now, so I'm going to report tomorrow. I'm gonna be with a couple of the guys, me, Christian Hayes, Jalen McClinton. We're gonna be down there watching the game, cheering the guys on, just enjoying Army football.
Yeah, I'm be here at Fort Sill. I'm still here at Fort Sill, so I'm probably gonna hang out with some of the former teammates like Zach Bubis, and we'll probably just watch the game out of that. A restaurant or just stay at home and watch the game. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to try to meet as many former Army players out in tailgates before the game, maybe get some videos and photos. Just the Black Knight Nation's live and well, right? And so just trying to get out there and, 82,000, I think, MetLife. I think they're sold out. 82,000. That's more than Lincoln Financial Field, right? I mean, so
yeah.
I'm jealous.
It's like playing at Oklahoma, right? That's like playing at Michigan, the crowd like that, right? But it's different because the sides are supposed to be equal, right? And then once tsunami starts, forget it, all bets are off. So
it's the livest game day environment I've ever been in, so it's gonna be a special one, especially in New York. It's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, that's home for us, man.
Absolutely. This should be obvious. This should be a home game for Army, right? They're the away team. They're the away team in this game. So that's why you see the uniforms, and we talked about the uniforms on the last podcast, Cal, right? Yeah. Well, we all know what that's all about. Guys, thanks so much for the time tonight. It's great having a little reunion of the roommates at West Point, right? I mean,
Kel Walker.
This was good stuff. We'll have to do it again soon. Thanks a lot for joining us. People are watching us. Check out Black Knight Nation all over the YouTube and social media platforms, and we're going to break down this game at some point, guys. I'm going to do a recap. I don't know if I'm going to do it on Saturday night or I'm going to do it the next day, depending on what's going on at the stadium. But maybe we'll give you guys a holler to break down the game too. So,
absolutely, let me know.
Sounds good.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. Man, great having you.
Man. Absolutely. See you.